Well, hello everyone. It is time again for CBUS Roundball Weekly, our 11th week of doing this. And boy, it's just been exciting every one of them. We've been lucky, but week 11, coach.
It's amazing we've been able to do this. And you suspect, at least I really feel good that the quality of coaches and individuals, the people that we've been in contact with, we've been to Shekinah Christian Division 7, as small can be. We've been to Olentangy Orange and today we're going to have a chance to talk to Pickerington Central. We're everywhere.
Everyone.
And we've hit Central Ohio high school coaches, the City League a couple times, CCL, Mid-State, you name it, we've hit it. And
Been great.
Very appreciative of the fact that our coaches in Central Ohio are willing to talk to us. And they want to help promote our sport, our product.
And you know what? The thing that we've talked about a few times on here as we've done that is the fact that these coaches know each other. They help each other. They're willing to come on with us because they know it will be helpful. They're invested in the sport, not just in that current season, which of course they want to win and be champions, but they want to make the sport better. And that's what really hit me this year. And we're going to talk to another guy who embodies that today, and Johnathan Hedgepeth, as you mentioned, from Pick Central. They won the girls' Division I state title this past Saturday. He, unbeknownst to you, traveled in some of the same circles as you and knows a lot of. But that didn't surprise me because it is such a close-knit world here in Central Ohio that you're bound. Once you get a name into it, that's the end of not knowing each other real well, right? I mean, that's just the way it works.
Well, here's another thing that's impressed me, and we'll get to Coach here and our contacts a little bit later, but how many of these coaches, and they've all had great years, but one of the things that seems to be consistent, and I'm not sure you can find this, but maybe you see it in education, and there's a consistency of people working with kids. They're not only producing basketball kids, they're producing young people who are going to be quality people. They're striving for that, suspending, doing whatever, tough love. And, in today's world, I'm not sure that's even legal. How tough is it? How legal is it for you to, make a kid run, yell at a young man or young lady? I always said one of the beauties of athletics, and I truly believe this, and this is why I wanted my kids to be involved, was that anywhere else in your life, you might be able to convince people that you deserve this and you should get everything you want. Well, when you're on a team of 12 other people, it's just not going to be right. It's not going to be feasible. We can't make 12 people happy all the time. And so you don't get that. And so you have to learn to deal with adversity. And there's allowed to be consequences for mistakes that you make. And people can't get out in front of it all the time to make sure it's a soft landing. You're going to have disappointment. And so in my mind, athletics plays such a key role in the development of young people. And I think we have seen that echoed throughout these 11 weeks, Kevin. I just remember I was fortunate enough to have so many teams that beginning of the year you're searching. And then all of a sudden, I have no idea. I wish I did because I would certainly, copyright it, get a patent out there. But, somewhere along the line, you might be fortunate enough that all of a sudden it clicks. And then you start seeing it. With your son, I'll go back. Fisher Catholic. In my mind, at Fisher Catholic is when I thought I got out of there and we had a phenomenal second half, played a totally different style and won big. And I walked away from that saying, this team's got a prayer. We're going to get better from here on out. We're going to be really difficult to beat. And by golly, we were.
And you're right. Going back to the idea, we've talked to people this year who have been incredibly successful, but the through line in that is that they cared about these kids getting better, putting themselves in position to do well in college and beyond. And then we'll talk about basketball. And that to me was, maybe the biggest deal coming out of it.
And unfortunately, I don't know if a lot of people who want to get mad at a coach for whatever purpose, for whatever reason, understand all the different things that goes into being a successful coach. It's simple as that. You don't see I think the players, honestly, I cared much more about the 12 bodies in my staff than anyone else in the community when it came to our coaching and our product.
Yeah, you have to.
They were the ones I had to be honest with.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be fair to that group. And if it meant stepping on toes of parents, then that's what it meant. And unfortunately, in today's society, a lot of parents take that a whole lot more personal than they should.
Yeah, because unless you put yourself in that position. Yeah, unless you put yourself in that position. But anyway, well, yeah, no, but I think that's important to say. I think it's important to say. That's why we're here. We don't have to, just have fun and be light. We can talk about things. But anyway, let's go. We're going to talk to Coach Hedgepeth, who again just won the state title. So he's got some stuff to talk about. We're lucky that he's taken some time to talk with us. So let's get to that. When we come back, it will be Johnathan Hedgepeth, the head coach for the Pickerington Central Girls. He just won the big trophy in Dayton this past Saturday. We'll be back to talk to him right after this. Thanks to Just Hoops for sponsoring our show today. With facilities in Lewis Center in Dublin, you can level up your game today on 22 different hoops. In February, Just Hoops introduces the all-new Class Pass. It's a structure that allows more classes, more flexibility, more opportunity, and more development. No hidden fees or long-term commitment. Grab your Class Pass and join the classes that work for you. Learn more at justhoopscolumbus.com.
Just hit okay.
Yeah. Just hit okay. Yep.
Okay.
And we'll get going. Okay, Coach Ray, you ready?
I believe I look okay behind me and all that.
Yeah, you look great.
Well, I mean, I got
you in the sun. On. He's in Florida, so that's why he's got that tan working like that.
He told me yesterday.
I just got off the golf course. I had to hurry to get back here.
I hope you won some money. Yeah, all right.
Well, not today's game. That didn't do it.
All right. Well, here we go. Welcome back to the show. And boy, we're just really lucky now because we have got a state title winning coach as of this year. Well, again, but state title winning coach in Johnathan Hedgepeth. And Coach, first of all, congratulations. What a great performance in Dayton on Saturday. I was lucky enough to be there, and you guys jumped out and then took a couple of punches toward the end of the third quarter there and hung with it and found your way back and nailed down a big win. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I was glad to be there as well.
Yeah. Well, I think people were paying a little more attention to you than to me. And why is that guy bringing that camera everywhere? Because everyone should know we've got a photo gallery and a story that you can access from our homepage right now on cbusports.com. We hope you'll do that because we got some good ones, including a couple of your assistants got in there too, which is great because I know you're proud of your staff as well as your players. So
I am.
Before I turn it over to Ray, tell me a couple things. Number one, we know a little bit about your background. You returned to Pick Central after taking a break and then going for a short time to Canal Winchester, came back, won again because you're there in 2018, if I'm right, about winning that title and coming back and getting this one. But let's go back before that. Where you come from, how'd you find your way to coaching in Central Ohio?
I'll try to make this as short as possible, but my goal and dream was always to coach basketball. My wife and I moved up from North Carolina over 20 years ago, and she's in education. She was a assistant principal at Ridgeview Junior High in Pickerington, And I asked her, was there any coaching opportunities? And Ray may know this name. He was a former band director at Pickerington, pretty known nationally. His name was Mike Sewell. He ran our band, and he was the seventh grade boys coach at Ridgeview Junior High. And he brought me on as an assistant. And believe it or not, when I first met Mike, I was like, oh my God, this dude coaches basketball. And but I learned so much from him, being a first time actual coach, coaching in a school setting. Got to know him, his family really well, him as a person. He was a great mentor. And down at Ridgeview, obviously on the boys' side, there was a lot of really, really good basketball players that were coming through that I got the privilege of coach. Mike, his health became a little bit of a problem, and I became the seventh grade head coach a few years in with Mike. And there was kids like Karis LeVert, Chad Nelson, Zach Beaver, Roger Lewis, Taco Charlton, Daryl Levert. I mean, I can sit here and keep naming these kids that I had the privilege of coach on the boys' side. And
Of course, Karis LeVert just went from Cleveland down to Atlanta, still playing. Yeah.
yeah, they're like sons of mine. So when they are back in town, we frequently get together. I go and watch them play, every so often. But then after that stint in seventh grade, there was a coach at Pickerington named Jerry Groves. He asked me, I had a really good relationship with a lot of the boys and their parents, and a lot of Pickerington's a big football school as well. A lot of the boys were beginning to stop playing basketball and started to play football. And he was like, you mind coming up here and see if, helping us out up here? And obviously that was a privilege and a blessing that he asked me. And I came up, I believe, Karis's freshman year or sophomore year, and got on the JV staff. And then there was a transition that Jerry Groves left, and Jerry Francis came in. And in that little transition phase, a couple kids transferred over from Pickerington North, and Jay Sean Tate and Connor Kern. And I was really close with the North coach at the time, which Ray probably knows, Pete Liptrap. And I
You're
felt like,
dropping too many names, Coach.
yeah,
I can't write them all down.
yeah. Well, I mean, so I knew them well. I kind of felt like I needed to take some time away because of what was going on, and I took a year off. And then I talked to Jerry in 2012 and became his assistant. Jerry and I think Ray made some comments. One of my favorite sayings that Jerry had, and I still use to this day, and I'm going to try to use his voice here. Coach, planes, trains, and elevators. There's always one coming. So so I came over to coach with him. We won the state championship in 2012. That's how I got on the boys' side with him and Jerry Groves. And we were celebrating the state championship. We were returning Taco, Jay Sean, Javon Best, a crazy team. And I said, hey, guys, I'm done. I'm going to coach my daughter because I missed all of her eighth grade games. And I went over to be a girls JV coach for a year. The coach quit after 1 year, and they asked me if I would step in as like a kind of like an interim coach because I had no aspirations of being a head coach. And but the girls I was their fourth head coach in 4 years. So the senior class, I was their fourth coach. So they had to play through four different coaches. So they thought me coming over, they knew me. It would be a better transition than going to hire someone totally new. So that's how I became the girls' head coach.
Now you're talking about North Carolina. Is that where you grew up?
Yes, I lived in North Carolina all my life. My company, I worked for Abbott Laboratories at the time, and their plant up here was called Ross Labs.
Right.
Now it's transitioned over to Abbott Nutrition. But a friend of mine that worked with me in North Carolina transferred here, was in HR, and he I told him, I said, hey, don't forget about us little people. And sure enough, he called me one night about 1 in the morning. I was working third shift, and he was like, hey, would you like to entertain a position in Columbus, Ohio? Never thought my wife would move. God said go, and we went, and the rest is history. But I came
It's
up to
worked
work
out
for
just
Ross
fine.
last.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turned out just fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well,
Coach,
I got to tell you, I mean, we've got a lot to chat about in a short amount of time, but I just want to tell you watching your style now for a few years and how you do this, it's got to have a kind of, I mean, your signature is to be relatively calm on that sideline. Even maybe that's not what's working in your head, but that's what I took away from it.
Well, it's weird. I don't know if my players would say I'm calm, but I try to portray that. One of my sons, AAU coaches, he could be down by 15, and I was like, man, you never get riled up. And he's like, well, if I show my frustration or so concern, it may boil over to my players. So sometimes you learn from a various sources and people, and I've always tried to keep my demeanor as calm to let my players know that, hey, it's never over. Let's just hang in there. And I remember I went back on Sunday and I actually watched the broadcast on Spectrum. And I remember maybe in the fourth quarter, the commentator was like, hey, Kate, how was the Pick Central huddle? And it's like, it's actually surprising. Coach Hedgepeth was relatively calm and said, hey, we got this. And I don't know at the time I really believed that, but I tried to let our players know that we're fine and we're going to get through it. So
Coach, let's go back to some of the names you dropped there in terms of. I just can't let because you dropped one on our conversation yesterday when we were setting this up with one Terry Holloman. He's
gee.
got a little Whirly connection. Then you throw in a Jerry Francis, who's a Whirly connection. Then you throw in Mr. Kern, whose dad,
Yeah.
Chris, Chris and I have some of the funniest stories, at least to us, when we were coaching together. He was my assistant in baseball, and then he was my brother's assistant in girls basketball, and then he became a big time girls volleyball coach.
Yeah.
So I've known Chris, and once again, there's not more funnier people out there than Chris Kerr.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of good connections. Then you throw in Pete Liptrap, and anytime, I will tell you this: when I was a young coach, and I'd go down to the Coliseum, I always loved seeing. This is back when there was one Pickerington. Pete Liptrap would bring his teams in there, and I could go out there, and after 5 minutes, put a spot on the floor where his two stars were going to be shooting the ball the rest of the night. They took the same shot off a different action, but he was able to get these guys almost like identical shots every time down the floor. And I was just amazed at the job Pete and still does as an assistant over at Bexley. So you had some real good people around you
Oh,
back
for
then,
sure.
And again, my relationship with Jer goes back to when he was an eighth grader. So I've known Jer forever, and
Right.
his family, Jerry himself, and his kids, just tremendous kids, tremendous group of people. So let's talk a little bit about your year. First of all, you went through quite a bit of adversity this season with injuries, and to be able to make it to the mountaintop with the number of injuries, how many kids did you lose this season in which you thought would play prominent roles in your team's success?
Well, the first one we lost in June. Her name was Faith King. She transferred from Worthington Christian, I believe. I wasn't there last year, but I think last year was her first year with the team. Tremendous athlete. She plays soccer. I'm almost certain she ended the year last year on the Final Four team. I think she ended up as a starter. She's
Okay.
started the last half of the season. And we lost her before the season even started to an ACL. And then, the first two games of the season, we had a situation where, I had to suspend the kid for 2 games. Not really sure if, you know, it was really her fault, but she was involved. But, you still have to set the example for your program that, things are not, tolerated and there's ways to, just avoid situations. And she was a potential starter at the beginning. So we had to dress a 2027 sophomore with limited experience just because we didn't have her. And then about 5 games in, we lost our starting point guard who was she's committed to Purdue Fort Wayne Division I player.
Okay.
We lost her about 10 games in after we took a trip to Florida. We came back from Florida and that 2027 that was gonna, help us, from a size standpoint and post present. She tore her ACL about 3 or 4 games before the season ended. So yeah. So we dealt with a little bit of adversity and injury.
That's 4 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not a little bit.
That's
I mean, we
quite a
we
few
got
kids.
Yeah.
Last
yeah,
time I
we
checked, we only put 5 out there, Coach.
well, we only lost to one girl for 2 games for suspension. And a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people follow even down the stretch. London Johnson, for example, she was in the emergency room, I believe, before the district finals or the regional semis. Uh, really, really sick. She had 2 days to get ready to play, and we were even unsure if she was going to play. So, it's just a lot, but that's why, we're blessed to have a deep bench and people. We always, again, back to Jerry's comment, planes, trains, and elevators, you got to be ready. There's always one coming. We just hope they can step up, and we had a lot of kids step up for us. So,
That's outstanding. Um, I was not a big fan, being old as I am, not a huge fan of the Max Prep rating service. Okay, because some of the holes, and again, I think the Coaches Association approved it.
yes,
So what do I know? But one of the things, I mean, I just thought that there were a number of situations. Yours was a great example. I heard about you guys almost all year long, yet you're the number 5 seed,
right.
correct?
Yeah, yeah, correct. I mean, I'm not. A lot of people say I complain too much, but it's all for good reason. And I've just, I'm at my age now. I've tried to.
Oh, you're not allowed to go there. I'm sorry.
Well,
You're not allowed, unless
I
it's
think I'm
hurting when
older
you
than
wake up.
most. I
Yeah.
think I'm older than most of these young guys who's out here coaching. So, I looked at Jack Patel. We were in the District 11 meetings, and I was like, Jack, man, we're getting old. Look around us. I mean, so. But yeah, the max prep situation, a lot of people call me. It's like, Coach, this is wrong. This has to change. And I'm like, well, it's not changing. I mean, we are where we are.
Right.
I think for me, this is a personal thought as a coach. I've always tried to prepare my team to win a state championship. I've never went into a season saying, "Oh man, if I get 22 wins, that's going to get me to 300." I don't look at my resume. I look at what's best for my team. So we have, we went into a different league this year where they
Right.
added Taze Valley, Logan, and Canal back, which gave us, I believe, 8 teams. So we had 14 league games, which limit us to only have eight non-league games. So my goal for those eight non-league games was number one, best competition I can find, and the most exposure I can provide for my girls for college coaches to see them. So if you look at our non-league schedule, we lost 3 games. We lost the first one down at Winton Woods to obviously the state D2 state champs, they're loaded, well coached. I mean, you know, that was our first game of the year at their place, and people was like, well, coach, they did shoot 32 foul shots. I said, yeah, you're right. But at the end of the day, it was more for us to prepare ourselves. So losing that game through that adversity, I think we had two or three kids foul out of the game. Um, but understanding that things may not go your way, whistle may not go your way, calls may not go your way. But again, we need someone to be able to step up in those moments when someone is either in foul trouble or fouls out. So it taught us a lesson day one. So we're 0-1. And then we went down to Florida. We lost to Miami Country Day. And I believe the team that we lost to from PA, they're still playing. They were favorites to win the PA state championship at the highest
Right.
division. So, so again, our schedule, we played Purcell Marion. So basically, we're just trying to play the best. And then people called me today and it's like, well, coach, they still got Purcell Marion ranked in the top 25 and you beat them. I'm like, well, it is what it is. And I told writers, you know, we have a lot of really good kids individually, but they never really get nominated for player of the year or things like that. And it's a disservice to the kids, not me. Um,
Right.
because even though you're on a good team, because someone walked up to me and said, who do you think should be the player of the year between these two kids? I'm like, well, it depends on what your criteria is, but what about the Pick Central kids? And they said, and I said, you know what? I've already told my players that they're not going to get any individual awards. So let's focus on being champions. And they said, that's not true. I said, well, think about it. Barry Wallace was a McDonald's All-American last year, and she didn't even get Player of the Year for Central District. And that's not to take away from any other kid. It's
Right.
just like if you're ranked in the top 20 nationally and you're a McDonald's All-American and you can't even win your regional player of the year, something's not adding up. So, but again, the max prep situation and all the situations that we're in, they are what they are. We were fifth seed. We had to take it. There was no appealing it. You just make the best of it and hope you can get through it. So, and that's what
I
we
mean,
did.
I think a lot of people stayed away from you based on the draw and such as much
Right.
as they possibly could, which
Sure.
speaks volumes about, and again, those people who are out there may not have a feel for how good you are and the schedule you put together. But the
Yeah.
people in the other coaches' locker rooms, they have a clue. Most of
Correct.
them do. I'll
Yeah.
say that. Most do. And they're going to stay away from you, no matter if you're rated number 7 or number 1. They know that you have what it takes. And so, again, I just remember in a conversation I had with my brother about 6 weeks ago, we were talking about the draw for the girls. And he says, well, I guarantee you no one wants to see Pickerington. I go, why is that? He goes, well, I don't care what they're rated. He goes, they're the best team in Central Ohio. And I said, oh, okay. All right.
Well,
So
I make sure I text Dale and tell him thanks for that.
well, that's the first time he's gotten something right in years. So it'd be nice for him to hear that it actually does happen on
Yeah.
occasion.
I wanted to ask, because again, being at the game with Princeton, they had a couple of really seasoned players that you had to contend with. And they're pressure all over the floor and got you guys to commit a few turnovers here and there. But the thing about your squad that was really impressive was they did not get flustered by that. I didn't see any emotion on the court, pointing fingers, yelling at each other. No, I mean, it was all very calm. That's the only way I can describe it, or poised to, what was going on, especially when they made that run at the end of the third, going into the fourth. I didn't see any lack of confidence coming down the floor looking to score again.
Well, I mean, back to you. I don't know if we did a great job in the first half. And, the eye-opening thing on the stat sheet was 11 turnovers. That's way too many. Our goals are to actually, our turnovers to be under 10 for the game. So any turnovers over 10, and they're kind of fortunate because we're done, but anything over 10, we run for them. So basically, we had
Sounds
11 and a
familiar,
half.
Coach.
Yeah, we would have been running a little bit on Monday if that wouldn't have been the last game. But we talked to him in the locker room at halftime about poise, taking care of the basketball, and finding the body to box out. I'm not sure what the second half rebounding, but they still killed us on the board. But back to your point, I talk about it all the time. You got Mari Gurton, who's going to Florida State, super talented, super talented. Can score at every level. The Aaron Thomas kid is young, but again, super talented. She's one of the top ranked kids in the country. But the biggest problem we had all night was Callie Fortson. She dominated us. I mean, it's just plain as you can say it. She
Well, you weren't
dominated.
alone in that, by the way. She
What
pretty
is
much
that?
she dominated all year. You know?
Yeah.
And she's just tough.
Yeah, and people probably didn't even realize because the first two names that I mentioned, they're like really highly recruited and ranked higher. But 2 years ago, if you were to pull the stat sheet from 2 years ago, Fortson had a huge game in their state championship win. And they had another kid that actually played for me named Soleil Williams in AAU who went to Texas A&M, but Fortson was instrumental in winning that state title. So we knew that there was going to be an uphill battle because we just didn't have the size, and we definitely didn't want London or any of our kids to get in foul trouble trying to guard her. So again, it was more about taking care of the ball and maintaining a level of composure because the more shot attempts we can get up, the better chances we have to score. But when we're turning it over, we don't have a chance. So, and I think they did a better job, even though the third quarter is when Princeton went on their run. We were still not turning the ball over. They just made it hard for us to get into any kind of set or situation where we could run a play. So it kind of became just a little bit of basketball knowledge and trying to get yourself open. So,
I mean, there were some toward the end of the fourth end, you guys hit three really big threes, able to get another shot from inside the arc. Some players who had missed a few coming up to that point,
yeah.
but they didn't back away from the challenge.
Well, Zoe Coleman, I think I talked about this in several of my interviews. She was, I believe, 0 for 7 in the first half, or up until the point she hit those back-to-back threes. And I was just waiting for her to hit a free throw or something to see the ball go through the net. And when she hit her first three, I remember it was when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, she's 3 or 4 feet behind the college line. Just as soon as we get this ball back, we're running a play for her.
Yeah.
And literally, I believe if I've watched the game over, but not in details, but I believe we only were able to run 3 to 4 sets the entire game correctly. And one of them was out of the third quarter. We ran to London Johnson on like a Iverson screen over top, and she ripped and went baseline and scored. And then the last one and the biggest one of the night was Zoe, off a side elevator screen, and she hit it again. So I was itching to get that playoff for her before, and we got into that set, and she knocked it down, and Gabby Player knocked down some threes. But Gabby's been, I would probably venture to say, if I was to go look at the last 5 games in the playoffs, she's probably shooting well over 50% from three. She's just hit huge shots off the bench for us.
Well, and that second half run, or fourth quarter run for you guys toward the end there, again, it was just trying to find space because they had dialed it up. But then it happened, and seemed like a big surprise to the girls on the court.
Right.
They just got back down to the other end and played defense. It was pretty impressive performance because, like you said, Princeton had some state title experience and knew what they could do coming down the stretch. It was just really good basketball. It was a lot of fun to watch on both sides and see that competition for sure.
Well, I think that's what it's supposed to be. You get into a Division One state championship game, it should be two heavyweights battling. It shouldn't be a 15, 20 point discrepancy, even though we've seen a few of those, but I think they're far and few in Division One where you see discrepancies like that. So it's always exciting because you know it's going to be a battle. You're gonna. It takes a lot to get to that game. We had to beat Magnificat in overtime. Princeton had to beat Springboro, the last second. So that's what makes it special to win this because you got 5 or 6 teams that can easily win this Division One thing because it's so much balance. So.
I mean, you're listing schools that these kids are going to, and every kid's going to a major power.
Yeah.
And so the amount of talent on the floor is just amazing to me. So, Coach, I got to ask you something, and maybe you experienced this before. I got 2 questions about this. One of them, when we were at Worley, and Jerry was part of this a couple times, and then again he did it as a head coach out there. Did you have any games where throughout your run, how many games did you have to win to get to win the state this year? Was it 4 or 5?
This year it was to get to the state finals, 2 district games, which it used to be 4 and 2
Right.
regionals. So you have to win 5 to get to the
5 there.
championship.
So a total of 6 wins.
6, yes.
Any of those games, did you feel like you didn't play up to the level that you sort of expected and that you were ripe to be beaten?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like there were stretches in the Olentangy game in the regional finals that we let our guard down a little bit. But again, that game ended up being maybe 15. We had a great 4th quarter. But we've had, Magnificent game, definitely. I hate to say it, but, Mike Sewell said it. In championship runs, sometimes you got to win a game that you should lose.
That's
And
exactly the point.
and the Magnificent game, I won't say I had doubts, but every time we would punch them, they punched back. And we were down 8 at halftime. Our goal as a team is to hold teams under 40 or right at 40 points, 10 a quarter, and we'll score 41. We were down 23-15 maybe at halftime. We had a rough hill to climb. We had to hold them to 17. They scored at 1 point in the 3rd quarter. So we made the adjustment for the 3rd quarter against Magnificat and then kind of let it slip away in the 4th. And Kennedy Gordon, again, back to making big plays. If you go back and watch that Magnificent game, she's missed, literally, when I tell you, 3 wide open layups. No one near, just missed them. She drives it coast to coast with 6 seconds and makes a layup and sends it in overtime. And so, again, the game we should have lost because Magnificent smacked us harder than we smacked them. But our defensive pressure helped us again to give us a chance. So vice versa, we come out in the 3rd quarter with a 6-7 point lead in the state finals. We don't play well in the 3rd quarter. We only score 6 and we give up. I think they were up 3, so we gave up 9. So they're up 3 at half going into the 4th. And again, it was just a battle of wills and our kids through being battle tested. We always say, hey, you play teams that look just like these guys. No need to be afraid. Let's try to figure out how to get it done. So they did.
I just remembered that I always felt like in our runs down there at Worley, and we had a couple decent runs at Grandview, that there's always this game that you just sort of had a weird feeling about it, like shots that you made all year long, that day they weren't falling. Kids sort of had that look on their faces of deer in the headlight, where no matter what you said to them, it wasn't sinking. And if we're ever going to lose early, this is when we're going to lose. And if you got past that, boom, you took off, you know.
Right.
But you didn't always get past it. And so I was wondering about that. My other question for you. So you won it in 18, correct?
Yes.
And when you won it back then, you did it when there were 200 teams in your division.
Right.
I think you might know where I'm heading here. 64 of them this time. Make any difference to you?
I mean, I don't know. There's things that you like about it, but you better be ready because you win one and you're in the district finals. You could be in a dogfight. So it didn't give you a lot of time for your team to figure out
Okay.
things.
That's a good point.
So, you had 2 games. I mean, in the past, typically for us, our first 2 games have been games that we can work through some issues.
Gotcha.
And then you get to a district semifinals, a little tougher, and then the finals is tough. And then so you're able to build. Now with going right into a district finals on game 2, and there was a lot of things I didn't like. I'll give you an example. Our last regular season game was scheduled for February 14th against Taze Valley.
Okay.
Taze Valley is in our league. It's a league game, and Taze Valley is actually D2. Well, most people don't understand. Well, the D2 tournament started on February the 12th. So they asked us to move our game to February the 10th. And we had to wait 9 days before our first playoff game. That's a lot of time for, girls to wait. I mean, a team to wait.
Now, you're not allowed to be sexist here, because I could tell you it was a long time for boys to wait that long.
Well, yeah, that's why I was saying I changed it to teams. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's just tough. And we get through that hurdle, and then we got another week to wait for another game. And then, you got the week. So there's some plus and minuses to the week between the state semis and the state finals. Like rest, that's one of them. But it's, you still got 7 days of your anxiety for the kids, where it used to be, you win the state semis, you go to your hotel, you find some film, you overnight, and you go do shoot around the next day, you do the scouting report, and it says, bam, bam, you're right back at it. No time to think. So again, pluses and minuses. We just have to deal with what the Ohio high school decides and try to deal with it and manage it as much as possible. But I also felt like from a lot of college coaches, it was very tough on them when we were playing in Mansfield and Princeton's playing in Fairfield, I believe. They can't get out to both places. So I think it kind of made it tougher for kids to be seen from college coaches.
That's a good
where, ultimately that's what my goals are, to get the kids an education if they have aspirations playing college, to get them to play in college. So it just made it a little tougher for them. But, if you don't make it to the finals, which most of them are able to come to the finals and watch 7 straight games, it's tough. So pluses and minuses, but I'm not sure if I can say one way or the other that I like. So,
all right. Well, before we let you go, I just want to say you've got a good core coming back. And
don't relax.
What's that?
So don't relax. There's pressure on you.
Get right back on it. I don't enjoy that at all. No, but you've got to be pretty happy about what you're going to have on the first day of practice. But as you saw this year, who knows what team you'll have, going forward. So you've got to always plan. But you got some young players, some valuable experience this year, given all of the things that you went through. So you've got to be pretty happy about where you're going to start next year.
Yeah, someone asked me after we won, like, what do you think about next year? I said, well, I'm going to give the girls their mandatory 30 days off from Ohio High School, and then we'll figure it out after 30 days.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Deion Smith, she stepped in as the point guard. She's a 27. Zoe Coleman's a 27. London and Blossom and Gabby Player and Amira Jenkins all return. And hopefully we have the young lady back in the post that got hurt near the end of the season. But yeah, great, great team coming back. Obviously, I'm not going to say we have a chance, but on paper, it looks pretty good that we can make a run. And you just got to stay blessed and that you stay healthy and the kids, all continue to want to be here and be a part of something special. So,
well, that I can't imagine you're going to change your approach to your non-conference scheduling, right? To try to, change the way Max Preps looks at it, right? That can't be the number one way you schedule, right?
No, I mean, we're going to still take that. I think they give you for out of state. Excuse me, my allergies are setting in. I've talked too long, but we're going to take the same approach. It's an out of state opponent. It could be the number one team in the country. You're still it's still looked at as a Division IV win or loss. So we're not going to let that deter us from preparing our team and giving them that experience of playing high level, top notch teams in the country. I'm already looking at a couple places: North Carolina, South Carolina. We went to Florida last year to try to find matchups for us that'll help us. So that's not going to change. I ran one of the biggest Martin Luther King tournaments in the Midwest, if not in the country. And, I'm hoping that the Ohio schools do not let this match prep deter them from playing competition versus just wanting, these percentage points to their rankings. But,
Right.
I can't control what other coaches want, but I try to explain to them our event is about college exposure and getting your team as prepared for the state tournament. So we will not change our approach. So we're going to seek to play the toughest schedule in the state outside of our non-conference and go from there. So
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, and by the way, if y'all go to North Carolina, I've got a son there. I can come down and cover that in a heartbeat. So
where is he from?
He's in Greensboro.
Well, that's what my daughter is. She's actually she works at Wake Forest University.
Yeah,
So.
he actually got a graduate degree from there and now works at Duke a little bit. So
okay. Coach, I got a question for you here now that we're talking about relatives sliding up and down the part of the country here. I had a niece that went down to LSU. She was down at Baton Rouge, went down there and played a little tennis. She came back during Thanksgiving, and she sounded like she'd been there for a long, long time. She caught on to that Southern accent. What I don't understand is you've been here years, and you still sound like you're from Carolina. So does it not work in reverse?
I guess not. I tell people in my business, I have to do a lot of workshops and speak. And first thing I tell them, nope, I'm not from Ohio originally. I can't get rid of this accent. So if I say something you don't understand, just forgive me. But no, over 20 years, and and my wife's the same way, 20 years.
Yeah.
And hers is worse than mine.
Your players must understand your accent. That's all matters, Coach.
Well, yeah.
Coach, you know better. It goes in one ear and not the other. I know.
Come on now.
They understand the premise behind what I'm saying, but that's not to say they want to listen to it.
Well, hey, thanks, Coach. I know this has been a busy time for you and you're finally getting a chance to relax and enjoy. Thanks for taking some time with us. I got to tell you, it was one of the better basketball games that I've seen. Your win on Saturday over Princeton, because it had all the elements of a good drama, playing out. in front of a big audience, and that's always a gas. So, hey, thank
Well,
you.
I was
Congratulations.
gonna say it's funny you say that because I told my team before the game, I said, listen, every movie, think about it. You can go watch a comedy, you can go watch an animated movie, doesn't matter. Every movie has a tough part of the movie that even in a comedy you have to overcome, but the end is typically a happy ending. So, I told them this was our movie. We
Yeah.
overcame the third quarter and, we had the happy ending, and I'm just so happy for them and, thankful that we can pull it out. So,
Well, and I think one of the
Congrats.
things that people will say about this year as they look back for you guys is the way you handled those injuries. You didn't back away, and your kids stepped up, whoever the next person was to play, obviously did a great job. So I think that's a big story in this. And then you kind of put that in microcosm into one game there on Saturday. So tremendous effort. We'll look forward to talking with you, hopefully early next year outside the
okay.
state of Ohio somewhere. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that
Uh,
will be fun.
yeah, yeah. So again, thanks a bunch. Good luck to you. Enjoy this. We'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Take care, Coach.
My name is Jason Rice, and I'm the head coach of Pickerington Lincoln. I was on CBUS Roundball weekly. It was a great time. I enjoyed it, and I would definitely be loved to come back, and they do a great job with interviewing questions and making it feel like it's a good time.
Back for the final time today, and boy, great interview. We went a little longer than we should have with Coach Hedgepeth, but good guy, great experience. Still sounds like he's from North Carolina.
Well, I just love the fact that when I set the interview up with him, when I called him, I was sitting there thinking, okay, how do I know this guy? Is there a connection here? And the next thing you know, it's, well, this guy, your association with Worley, Holloman, Francis, Chris Kern. These are all guys
Lip
that
Trap, all
Rip
these.
Trap.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
great guys, great individuals, all of them educators,
Yeah.
and so there were quite a few, and it makes me feel real old when I hear that. But I'm very happy for the success he's had, and his approach to things seems very solid.
Yeah.
And he's
Impressive.
been influenced by the best.
Yeah.
Jerry Francis turned into such a quality person, and there's some interesting stories about Jerry and I back in the early days. Let me just tell you, there were two heads that were not going to meet other than just go at each other hard. He was a young bull, and I was the old guy sitting there at a smooth 23 or 24. And I was willing to accept any challenge possible.
That was a dangerous combination. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we would see him at Grandview when his daughters were in high school that he'd come up and play. They'd come up and play at Grandview. And so we get a chance to see him there.
So Jerry, real quick, Jerry played at Ohio State, started as many games as anyone ever at the time. And the summer after he graduated, he didn't have a job. So I had him come over and work my basketball camp. So the first day of camp is over. Monday's over with. It's about 1:15. I'm cleaning everything up. All the coaches are leaving. And Jerry goes, Coach. I go, yeah. Jerry goes, you know what I want? I'm like, Jerry, what are you talking about? He goes, you and I, one-on-one, let's go. And this had been something that he and I had done his senior year at Worley, and here's a guy that's playing power forward in the Big Ten, and now I've got to play him one-on-one.
Did he back you down?
Oh, God. No, I played a one-man zone. I made a few jump shots. I tried to get my press and fast break going.
Yeah, that's fun.
I don't think I was very successful. But it was just
a good one, and it remains a good guy.
You know what I want. I'm like, I have no idea what you want, Jer.
Yeah.
So,
well, we certainly appreciated Coach Hedgepeth coming on and put a little pressure on him for next year, but he's got plenty of time to work on that. Now, but important for us, we've got 4 teams from Central Ohio going to be playing in Dayton. I'm going to be over there for 3 games because 2 of them play against each other. You're going to talk about that in a minute. And it's 4 coaches that we've interviewed on our program. So
we were hot this year, big guy. We're certainly hot.
Now that we have Coach Hedgepeth, we've got everybody that's played in the state tournament, both boys and girls.
Oh, we had Afrocentric in here as well on the girls' side.
Yeah.
So We've
the
had
state finals
quite a
anyway.
run,
Yeah.
quite a run of coaches.
So let's talk about starting with D1.
D1, the makeup or if you talk to Mr. Zach Fleer, he says this is the game that everybody wanted, and we get it. We get Olentangy Orange in Reynoldsburg, and so we're going to put the pressure on them. Reynoldsburg hits the last second shot in the key on a baseline out of bounds to score the winning points to win their game.
Now that was Reynoldsburg. That was Reynoldsburg. Did you say Orange? I'm sorry.
I thought, okay.
Yeah.
Coach Moore set that up for the Bird.
And it was it was 0.1 seconds that the clock stopped after the made shot.
The buzzer went off.
Yeah.
So you got that one, and then Olentangy Orange went overtime.
They did against Ignatius.
But we get the dream matchup at Central Ohio, and that's going to be Saturday night at UD 8:30. So what a phenomenal, and then again the uniqueness of this. It's been how long? 20 some years since this happened. Prior to this, that one region would have two teams come out of it to win it,
and never from Columbus. This is the first time ever from Columbus. Yeah,
and let me tell you, there's been throughout the years when you start looking at some of the great teams out of Columbus City League, East, Lennon McKinley, South. I mean, you're talking great teams coming through here. So, what a great experience for these guys. D2, Westerville North is going up Friday night.
Yeah.
They get at 7:30. All right. So they made it to the finals, and they have just been impressive as all get out.
Yeah, they ran away in that game. They, again, none of this was in Dayton because our semifinals are away from Dayton a week before. But Shan Trusley and the kids, 3 of his starting 5 brothers, they're just impressive. There's not a part of their game, and I had a chance to watch a lot of that game.
Right.
There's not a part of their game that isn't good.
Well, and again, there was an article, local paper, Dispatch had an article about what would have happened had there not been this division.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not would we have had 2 teams and such. And
I don't think so.
No. Well, there's no
you
way.
would have had those 3 teams, the 3 teams we just talked about.
One region.
Yeah.
Coming out of one region.
Right.
And maybe even being eliminated because, we didn't even talk about Olentangy Liberty.
Right.
That was right there. So some phenomenal talent this year in Division I Central Ohio, Division II as well. Yeah, we forgot about the Bear, not the Bears. Sorry, Tim Casey, the Eagles of New Albany.
Yeah.
So then we
great year. I mean, he had a phenomenal year. Yeah,
another great year for Coach Casey.
Yeah,
this is 2 in a row up there with New Albany, and I don't think the cupboard's bare. I think he feels pretty solid about what he's coming in the future.
Oh, for sure.
So then we get to the 4th team. And that's my buddy, Jeff Wursler and the Vikings of Columbus.
The guy who asked you how he could get better and then beat you.
Well, I told him that back then, and you'll love this. I told him, try to prep your team for the teams you think you can compete with. Okay? Don't try to overshoot and play the teams that are really good in the league. Beat the teams you can compete with, and then maybe you'll be able to pull the upset off. Well, I wonder, is he going after Division I college teams after this?
Yeah. I mean, and he's the one that's undefeated, at this point. And again, I saw them play in the semifinal over at Wittenberg, and they're hitting on all cylinders. And they had foul trouble. They had 3 kids with 2 fouls in the first half. And, Singleton, who is the big scoring guy for them,
they've got great depth.
He had single figures, and they still came and got it.
They have great depth. They have great length. They have great athleticism. When I saw them this summer, I was just so impressed.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about Coach Wursler, his style, they're pretty bright kids that go to Academy A, and then they are pretty intelligent basketball players.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they don't beat themselves. That was the one thing we always said about coaching against his teams. They don't make a lot of stupid mistakes. They'll make mistakes. Everybody's going to, but never high level of turnovers. They'll miss shots. Again, everyone does, but
Yeah.
they rebound the ball well. And with the depth that he has, the inside out balance. Now Lutheran East, wow. They had to get by Richmond Heights, and Richmond Heights is one of the favorites to win it. So,
and the weird thing about that is that's one where they came to the same division when they're usually not, because a lot of years each of them won the state title.
To borrow our Marty here, this will be a titanic struggle.
Yes, it will. Well, and Lutheran East they have so much experience being at this stage of the game. And it'll be interesting to see because
I think in most cases that might be something that would be a huge advantage. But I think Academy and Coach Wursler's approach, he's got such a great staff. He's got guys that have been with him forever. They've been in Academy forever. And, John Exline, they said the last time Academy was there, John Exline was on that staff coaching. He's been on that staff for 40, 50 years.
Right.
These guys aren't going to be intimidated one bit by the environment.
That's what I'm excited to see, actually, because that'll be in the morning.
Yeah,
and I actually
45 kickoff.
Yeah, and I asked him at the post game last week about it being up early in the morning, and he said, these guys are used to playing AAU ball when they're playing 7 games in a day, and they're up at 9 o'clock playing, and he didn't think it would matter at all. But what I'm excited to see is the game plan they have for Lutheran East.
Well, I can tell you this, Jeff has a great approach, and his answer to you is consistent. He's always like that. Well, we didn't want to do this, but hey, these guys, they're this age, they're this, they're that. And he just sort of says, hey, everyone's going through the same thing. They're going to have to be up the same time we are. So, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get a 60 minutes answer. I just wanted to let him know I was there. And it was and he was nice enough to say my name in the response, so I felt like a big celebrity,
I'm looking forward to that, and I'm praying for him because, I think the world of him as a person and his program, and it'd be special for him. I know that. Well, but he'll be the same guy, win or lose.
Oh, no, there's no doubt about that.
Colors on us.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
So,
yeah. So, no, we're, as I say, and people, if you're watching CBUS Sports, we'll have stories for all 3 games, and we'll be putting photos together from all 3 games. And so take a look. And maybe a little later.
We could have interviews for number 12 next week with the winning coaches.
I'll try. Now the pressure's on, man. No, okay.
Uh-huh.
No, we will. We'll do something. But yeah, it's just going to be. I mean, and from these days, we wish we could have had semis and finals all together. But these finals with 7 games coming over 2 days, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yep.
So
UD will be a lot of fun this weekend.
All right. So next week probably is our wrap-up week. We'll decide. We may have some mystery guests. We don't know. But at the very least, you and I will have a chance to talk and wrap things up from the state tournament this week. But we'll also have a chance to wrap up the series for this year and talk about, kind of what we learned and what we want to do going forward and all that kind of stuff. But I'll just tell you now, I've had the best time, and getting to know these guys and has been really helpful to me. And I hope that you've enjoyed it, Coach, because people just don't turn you down. I mean, they show up. So I don't know what you got, but man,
I don't either.
Keep playing.
I'm wondering what I have on.
No. But what I've learned is, and I'll say this because it needs to be said, is the amount of respect they have for you, and first of all, honoring the request, and then coming on here and giving us answers that are not typical kind of end of game reporter answers, which is what I would have got. So I've just been really pleased with how we've been able to explore with these coaches, with these men and women that give so much of their time to the sport. But they wouldn't have been here without you asking them. So I'm very, very thankful that you did.
Well, I'm hoping that ESPN picks this up and we end up, or at least something picks this thing up and we become, because I really do think that we had some quality interviews and discussions with coaches throughout the year. And it has been a joy.
You know what? One of the questions that I've gotten last couple of weeks is about you explaining the flex. So you may get calls from coaches about the flex. Be ready.
You know what? And that was something that we ate that was breakfast, back in the day when we started coaching. Everyone ran it. And it was like, are you kidding me? I mean, it was so simple to us. So,
I think those are the two comments that I've got about the flex and when is Ray coming back to Ohio? Other than that.
Well, I've got 2 golf matches on my return trip, and one of them is one of my former players who lives in Charlotte.
Okay.
So I got one in Tampa. Then I'm going to wake up. I mean, after I finish playing there, drive over to Charlotte, play golf, get in the car, drive home. So unlike driving straight through, I'm going to make this one a 2-day trip and enjoy it a little bin more.
You know what? Take your time, brother. All right. Well, hey, we're going to talk next week and we'll wrap things up. And, in the meantime, everybody enjoy, be safe. And if you can, the games are all on Spectrum this weekend. Take a look if you can't get over to UD and watch these kids play. So we'll wrap it up. Hey, thanks, Coach. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thank you, Kevin Rao.